A deadly crash of a high-speed train in China dents public confidence and raises concerns about possible corruption. What caused the crash, and what has the Chinese government done so far to try and contain the public anger? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shakun Tilasantharan. On Saturday, July the 23rd, 40 people were killed and nearly 200 injured after a high-speed train crashed into a stalled train in China's eastern Zhejiang province. The accident was the biggest blow yet to China's high-speed rail ambitions that have been highlighted as a symbol of the country's rising economic and technological prowess. Weeks after the incident, China has decided to recall 54 bullet trains, suspend the construction of all new railway projects, and increase safety checks on its train network. More now from Andrew Thomas.
It is an embarrassing retreat, the suspension of all new railway construction projects. High-speed trains are supposed to be signs of China's rapid development and technical prowess, but suddenly they're a cause of shame. A curt statement from China's cabinet announced the examination and approval process will be frozen with immediate effect. Top speeds for trains on existing lines will be reduced as well. It's all in stark contrast to this, the launch with great fanfare of the flagship Beijing to Shanghai service 6 short weeks ago. It was supposed to be the latest high-speed line, not the last. But then came the collision of 2 high-speed trains on a line south of Shanghai on July 23rd, which killed 40 people, provoked outrage and prompted a major rethink. Had the government compromised safety in its rush to develop? Even pre-crash, China's high-speed rail ambitions have been beset by problems. There were accusations of corruption at the heart of some projects. In February, the then Railways Minister resigned in the face of accusations that he had taken bribes. Top speeds for trains had already been revised downward in the face of safety concerns and spiralling costs. China had hoped to recoup much of its outlay by exporting train technology. A proposed high-speed line in California was one target to bid for. The crash, and now the suspension of even China's own projects, all but destroys any hope of that. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera.
Well, joining us now are our 3 guests. In Washington, D.C., Cheng Li, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. In Paris, François Godemont, a senior policy fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. And here in Doha, Lei Wang, a Chinese citizen and a fellow at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us. If I could start with you, Cheng, what do you think? Has the government sacrificed safety in the interest of development?
Absolutely. I think the speed at the expense of safety is the key word. This could be evident in, before the incident, during the incident, and after the incident. Before the incident, the Chinese government and some companies obsessed with the speed talk about that China should be number 1 in this, number 1 in that, and ignore the safety concerns some of the intellectuals or experts criticize or raise. During the incident, they closed the search, human search, and too early. And after they closed the search, they found another young girl still alive. And after the incident, they just resumed the railroad. It only took 1 day, less than 1 day. But in Japan, the similar incident, it took 15 days for investigation. This all tells you that the speed at the expense of safety. But also this raises issues for not only just transportation safety, but also the food safety, environmental safety, housing construction safety. I think this is a wake-up call for the country.
Okay, Lei, what do you think? Why is the Communist Party in such a rush to build the world's largest high-speed rail network as fast as possible?
I think building the technical leadership and driving the economic development has always been the key agenda for Chinese government development. It's also the hope of Chinese people. But we also need to understand, with the compromising of the quality and especially on safety, there is no sustained economic growth. So that's why you can see the Chinese government have call back all the trains and do the rectifying work. But personally, I feel very sorry about the individuals who lost their families, who lost their friends, because the life is cannot be recoverable like the equipment. What we can repair it. So caring about safety, caring about individuals' life will be in the key agenda for the party and for the government, which will be driven by the force of collective power of the people and of the society.
Okay, Francois, up till this point, has the Chinese government put profit and politics before safety?
Well, I think first, this is a political fact that the government had to react to. China's middle class had been complaining about the new bullet trains breaking down, and now this horrible accident, it's a political fact in itself, and they cannot but move. But I want to stress that there are several dimensions to this. The train that broke down is not at all China's fastest. It's actually, you would call it a medium speed train, reaching about 250 kilometers, essentially licensed from Kawasaki in Japan, something that's been running for years. And so that makes it almost worse, because what we have is a systemic accident with a signals problem, not directly linked to the fact that some other trains run at 350 kilometers per hour. So that's problem number one, the basic integrity of the signal system. The second problem, of course, is that China has been trying to break all sorts of speed records, not only the speed record for the train itself, but the speed record in building tracks, the speed record sometimes in training train drivers. For example, there was a People's Daily article a few months ago that explained that you could train a 350 kilometers train driver in less than 10 days. That's what the ordinary Chinese call Great Leap mentality. And Great Leap mentality generally leads to boasting and to pride, but can reverse very quickly into self-deprecation. And what is happening now is that there is soul searching on the part of China's middle class on how could we get there. Then, of course, the incredible insensitivity of the railroad ministry, the railway ministry. The very announcement, which Sheng Li has pointed out too, that the search for victims was ended, and several hours later, train that's about to be buried, a 2-year-old girl who fortunately is alive, that has touched the Chinese public, of course, and that has made the political factor bigger and bigger.
Okay, Francois, thanks for now. Well, 5 days after the incident, Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao has promised a full and open investigation. Let's listen to what he had to say.
No matter if it was a mechanical fault, a management problem, or a manufacturing problem, we must get to the bottom of this. If corruption was found behind this, we must handle it according to the law, and we will not be soft. Only in this way can we be fair to those who have died.
Cheng, do you believe what Wen said? Will there be an open investigation with the results made public?
Well, I have a tremendous respect for Premier Wen Jiabao. He is a sober voice within the Chinese leadership and provided a human face during the past 9 or 10 years. But he is, to a certain extent, is quite alone. And his colleagues in the Standing Committee and maybe in the Politburo, this is 25 people leadership body, may not necessarily agree with him. Sometimes the rumor said that he was criticized by this kind of open remark that talk about open investigation. At the moment, I think the Chinese people still buy that argument. And there's a new team formed just a few days ago, and replacing the vice minister of railroad, and with someone more capable and more objective to investigate the case. But the point is that people still want to wait to see if there's, they do not provide a satisfactory answer to the public. If there's more incidents happen, if the future leadership, there's no leader like Wen Jiabao, I think China is in big trouble.
At this point, it is not clear what happened. If corruption was indeed responsible or involved, Do you think, Lei, that the authorities will really dig deep and get to the people responsible for what happened?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important question. Because if you look at this accident and what is after accident action by the Chinese government, it's a little bit different from before. Because you can see this is our society, our individuals, our people getting together through the internet, through the complaint, to make this investigation happen. That also drive our Prime Minister Wen Jiabao come to have a talk and to declare there will be an in-depth investigation. I think we need to shift a little bit focus from purely the government to our people. From this instance, you can see the Chinese people's awareness of democracy, of the human rights has been greatly improved. They believe in their power. They believe they can use the internet to communicate transparently. They believe they can get in the power together to make a change in the society. So I believe with the drive of the people, of Chinese people, we can make a difference. The investigation will go on. It will give people the right answer where they are looking for.
Francois, do you think the government... Go on, Cheng. What were you going to say?
Well, I think that, of course, we should put the emphasis on people. But here, the problem is the government accountability. Some leaders should be accountable for what they said. And particularly the Ministry of the Railroad. I think that gigantic institution should be really reviewed whether there's a need for that institution to exist. The Railroad Ministry even has a police. And so I think my point is that the top leadership should be really aware that the political resentment among the people is overwhelming. They need to learn lessons from this incident. I think the focus should be on the leadership, not on the public. They are the victims, not the something should be responsible.
And at this point, the government is in control of the investigation. The people, apart from waiting for those results from the government, can't do very much at the moment. Francois, do you think the government is letting us know everything that they know at the moment?
No, I think there are several strata in government. It was clear from the moment when Wen Jiabao went public that the Chinese official media became more open and honest for a few days. And it was in fact quite remarkable. This happened because there had been an incredible outburst on Twitter, on blogs. And even though the Chinese system, controls blogs and Twitter in the long term, it cannot control quick outbursts which spread like wildfire. And that's, a new political fact. But then the real question, as Cheng Li says, is what will happen? Will the railroad ministry, which is already under attack, be taken to task for this, including for reportedly burying the railway cars very quickly in just a space of a few days? I mean, it's insane that the cars, which should be the object of an inquiry, were buried in underground and then dug out, by the way, when clearly somebody high up reversed the decision. So that's a first layer. Then there is a second thing, is that this whole railroad ministry is a bureaucracy out of control. The minister has actually been purged a few months ago and replaced, but that doesn't seem to bring a lot of control. It alone holds 5% of China's GDP in terms of debt, of public debt. So the whole thing, has got to be stopped. And I can see that a few high government leaders, such as Wen Jiabao, wouldn't be too displeased if some of these spending plans were now halted because they have gone out of control. So there is also an economic dimension which is there behind the drama.
The government did issue a ban to the local media to investigate the cause of the crash. Why did they issue such a ban if they had nothing to hide?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, this is really test of how to manage in crisis by the government. At the beginning, the government not get used to it, not have their own confidence on how people can react to the truth. So, but actually, if you look at the accident crisis resolving approach in different parts, globally from different accidents, the more transparently you are doing with it, the more that you trust between the government and the citizens, the easier solutions that we can find, the more effective solutions that we can identify. So the Chinese government also in a learning process of that. And then they are taking actions, they learn from it, but I hope this kind of learning can be brought to other sectors as well, for coal minings and for the food safety issues and the quality issues as well, because this kind of accident of the high-speed train has been raised in high awareness, partially because there is many people being affected in the middle class levels, and also every citizen feel uncertainty because everyone potentially have a chance to be on the train. But if you look at other sectors of the coal mining part, they're only part of the coal mining workers work on it. I hope the government can learn from this lessons and take a more proactive approach towards other sectors as well, in safety and in the security.
Cheng, do you think the government is doing enough as far as damage control is concerned in the wake of this crash?
Well, no, not really. I think that public resentment is still on the rise. Now, I should be fair to the Chinese government. To a certain extent, many governments, including democracies, also concerned about the social media and what recently happened in UK, in Philadelphia, in San Francisco. You see the police, you see the local government also wanted to shut down some of the social media, and include Twitters and etc. Now, because the reason is that they are very nervous, because sometimes these kind of rumors or stories could be extremely damaging, whether true or not true. For a country like China, still certainly not no democracy, and as a regime has so many problems, and the corruption is almost out of control. You can see the government is scared. But the real lessons, I think, is that you in that battle with the media freedom, with the technological development, you should be on the right side of history. If only control the media, censor the media, that's not the solution. So I hope this is the main lesson they should learn, rather than something how to manipulate the media or social media.
Francois, do you think the government has learned that lesson?
No, I think that, well, they have learned a lesson because they have opened the media at some point. They have understood that there had to be both an official and a reaction in the more public media, and not only on tweet or blogs, because that was getting dangerous. But I think within government, there are probably two groups. There is one which is used to control, in any case, and the first reaction is to censor, and that's the propaganda department, which has been so active in China over the recent years. And there are people like Wen Jiabao who would like to take a more relaxed or more open attitude. But the limit of it is that, once the dam bursts, as our friend Wen mentioned, what happens with other accidents. That is, if you give satisfaction to middle-class riders of passenger trains, what are you going to tell to coal miners' families next time disaster strikes? So there are arguments probably for and against transparency that are going on in China.
Lei Wang, how committed do you think the government is to rectifying their mistakes and making sure such accidents don't happen again?
I think the key license is the government need to recognize the power of the people, need to care about individual people's interest in terms of safety, in terms of the quality of their living life. Caring about the individuals is much more important than the aggregate GDP number where we are pursuing in the long term. And I have another message that probably the two speakers doesn't fully agree, because I think we as Chinese, we put too much hope on the leaders, for leaders to managing the country for us. But actually, I think the question at this moment we need to ask ourselves is what we are only asking the government to do for us. The question should be how we can work together, collaboratively, peacefully, to drive the change in the government, to drive the progress of the society, we need to have the confidence in our power that you can see we have successfully drive the government to look at this case. And in the future, if for other accident, and we can work together, or even pre the accident, we can work together to give the warning to the government, which can prevent it. Government need to be a good listener to the society, to the people. And that is how the smart government can adapt to the different situation and can be regarded as a leader in the long term.
Cheng, what do you think? Is the Chinese government listening to the people now?
No, again, I don't think they're listening that, but we heard that, President Hu Jintao said for the past 9 years, a harmonious society, people-centered. We know this rhetoric for so long, for so many years. The real issue is here, it's not just a rhetoric, but whether the Chinese political system is accountable, can accommodate the ever-changing society, the particularly increasingly complicated economy and society, particularly rise of the demand from the middle class who wanted to have their safety, who also want to have the media freedom. I think the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party, the one-party system itself, is under a serious discussion. I think that should be another focus based on this incident. Of course, this terrible incident could happen many other places, including United States, Europe, and Japan, and etc. The important thing is we need to build a better political system and media, free media, and also the interest groups and NGOs, and also the rule of law. All these things should be valued rather than just think we will listen to people's views, but then nothing happened in terms of political reforms.
Francois, is this a turning point for China, do you think?
No, I don't think so. There have been other massive accidents and, periods of free speech followed by restriction after the accident. I think the government knows how to manage that. But perhaps there is a crossroads somewhere, because these high-tech industry accidents can happen anywhere. You can have a nuclear plant that fails, you can have a plane that falls, and you can clearly have a fast train that veers off the track. The main lesson for China is you cannot have something like the railway ministry supervise itself, no more that you can have an airline company supervise itself. And this is a regulatory change. These are things that we talk about in just about every advanced economy. The problem is with China, it's more difficult because it has political consequences. There is less or no tradition of checks and balances. And so even this, this modest progress that would be a totally independent inquiry commission, for example, and a completely independent regulatory board, well, that's difficult given the political system in China.
Okay, Lei, you've heard our two other guests. They're not as optimistic about you that the government has heard the people. How do you see the people driving the government to change short of a revolution?
In my point of view, in China, in the long history, we have so many revolutions. But will that really bring the democracy to us? That's the question. But I think if the Chinese people have the confidence in their mind with the tools, for instance, they can get together to peacefully raise ideas, we can do the evolutionary change to the government. Because I think if the government doesn't listen well to the people, and if the people take the real action on it and take the ownership of the country, this will be a change. There's no government can sustain without the fundamental support of the people. I have the hope of Chinese people,
okay,
of the generations that can develop this kind of concept, can work together to address this change.
Okay, Lei Wang, we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time here. Thank you very much to all of our guests, Cheng Li, Francois Godemont, and Lei Wang. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Goodbye for now.